What's happening, guys? Welcome back to Vertical Football and welcome back to another episode of Manchester United Fans Corner. I'm your host, Shegun. And guys, it's great to have you here. It's time to talk about Manchester United once again, to talk about the club, to talk about the transfers. So, guys, we have two major discussions today. First and foremost is to react on the decision of Semeno to Manchester City, that deal that it looks like it's on the way to Manchester City. So we'll talk about our reaction to that because we did an analysis of him. And look at the decision he made, you know. And secondly, we look at the name that has been touted as his replacement for Manchester United. That's the boy named Yan Diomande. So we look at, as usual, what we know is we look at what he has, we look at what we need, then we look at, you know, if he fits into what we want to do at United. And then we'll give our verdict whether we should go for him or not. So guys, let's jump right into it. First and foremost, Semenyo's move to Manchester City. For me, I don't think it's a shocking move. I think it's a move that any logical person will actually take, if we are being honest ourselves. Yeah, I know, yes, we have an affiliation with Manchester United. We love Manchester United. But the fact is, you know, someone that is logical, someone that is not being moved by emotions or by maybe I love a club or maybe I have one soft spot for another club. Just being objective, if you are faced with Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, Man United, Man City, as a footballer, I think you want to go with Manchester City. Obviously, it's Manchester City, the most successful team in the Premier League in the past 10 years. When you look at also, obviously, it's Pep Guardiola, the greatest manager in his own generation. So when you look at that, you're like, come on. I know these guys are Manchester City is also at the verge of, as we're looking at it, they are laying the foundations for a new team, right? A new team, and where he has a role to play in that team if he goes. So I think it's just the obvious and logical choice. If I was his agent or his family member without any attachment or soft spot for any particular club, I think I would say, guy, Manchester City is where he should go. Even though I know that, yes, there are still doubts about whether Pep is there, is going to be there or not, so that Semeno doesn't become a Zaha with a Zaha where Fergie brought him, you know, and then Fergie left at the end of the season. So Pep tried to bring him in, and then Pep will leave. But that one is their own business, really. But I think for me, it's a logical decision, and I wish him all the best, really. And I think there are certain things I want to give kudos to Manchester United for is the fact that I think in previous times we could have gotten Semeno. If it was Woodward in charge, we would have gotten Semeno. And what getting Semeno would have just obviously mean that we would have seen that, okay, we can't match up on the footballing proposal that Manchester City will be offering him, but we'll just up the wages, right? Boost the wages up and for him to come. And obviously, we might say, where has this happened before? We know that it has happened with Alexis Sanchez before, right? Manchester City wanted him, another we stepped in, another, you know what happened, and then we got him. So for I like the fact that we stuck with our wage structure. I think, and that's beginning to show that we are a much more disciplined club. Some might say it's no discipline, some might say that there's no money, but I think it's more discipline. We stuck with our wage structure, which I think I want to give kudos to the likes of Berrada and Wilcox for sticking with that idea. Even Ratcliffe for sticking with that idea and say, yes, we want the player. Yes, the manager has called the player a special player, but it has to fit into our terms, not just our terms in terms of profiles, in terms of analysis, but also our terms in terms of wages and the fee and everything. So I think I want to give them kudos. And I think for me, it's always a good move when you don't sign a player, you know, that's, you know, how will I put it now? It's always a good move when you don't sign a player, you know, if you don't meet up with the player's footballing proposal, right? What the player wants in the footballing aspect of things, if you get my point. So we did not meet up with what Semeno wanted in terms of footballing, right? For footballing proposals. And obviously United is not at that level. And any player that will want to come to United, obviously either the fact that they have so much belief in what we are building, so much belief in what we are building, even when some of the fans don't believe in what we are building, but that player has so much belief in what we are building, or they just have boyhood affection for United. Maybe they support you, Man United, right from young, as we can see, likes of Matheus Cunha, and they're like, it's a dream for me to play in Manchester United. So, but guys, I wish Semeno all the best. Let's move on to the name that is raging now in the media about as the touted replacement or second choice to Antonio Semenyo, which is Yan Diomande. Now let's go into who is Yan Diomande, what is his profile, what have I seen in him, and how does he fit into what we want to do. First and foremost, Diomande for Leipzig. I think we can look at it that there are certain areas he plays for Leipzig. I think when I watch games in Leipzig, I can obviously see that he plays as a right winger, left winger, and can also play as a left midfield or right midfield, depending on the tactical situation and the formation being used, right? He has the ability. So, but when you bring him to our own formation, looking at the 3-4-2-1 formation, I feel, for me, I think he can only play, if I'm being honest, I know that yes, he has the potential as a winger. You know, he's playing as a winger now for Leipzig. And I know that yes, we might look at it that okay, he can come and play as one of the inside forwards. But I do not see him there. Really, I do not see him as one of our two inside forwards. I know that yes, there might be some games, if he eventually comes, there might be some games where, because he's a winger, you put him there, right? But looking at the way he plays, looking at his orientation, I know people have said, oh, it's a replacement for Semeno. People have said, oh, he looks like Doku for Manchester City in a way. I know that yes, you can look at that and see the dress, the hairstyle, the body movement on the ball. You can say, oh, this guy moves a little bit like Semeno, moves a little bit like Doku. But the fact is, when you look at the habits of the guy on the pitch of play, his habits, you know, what he does, you know, subconsciously on the pitch, things that already become part and parcel of him, the habits, is not a Semeno, it's not a Doku. Yeah, I know the hairstyle might say different story. The body movement might say different story. Even maybe the skills, you know, might say different story. The pace might say different story. But I think for me, I don't see him as a Semeno or a Doku. So what I see about the guy is, I see the guy, and this might be a very shocking thing, and people might disagree. I see the guy as kind of like a right back. You know, someone that plays a right back, really. But I feel it's this kind of profile of a right back. In my own view, what I've seen, because of the habits he has, I see is that this kind of right backs that they have flair. This is what I see. And it's shocking to people because people are like, oh, this guy's a winger. This guy has scored that many goals this season and everything. But that's what I see. Let me tell you why I see that. Number one is, one of the habits he has is the fact that, you know, on the wing, is someone that always wants, you know, a partner when it's on the wings, when it's high up in the wings, close to him, right? It's always someone that wants someone slightly ahead of him, right? So he likes to drive him from deep up. And when he drives him from deep up, he wants somebody already there, high up, where he can pass to and where he can move. Because when you look at his game, he likes to drive from deep. And he's not necessarily a player that loves to go out wide. He's someone that loves to move inside, right? No matter where he's playing, either on the left or the right, he likes to move inside. So when you look at that orientation of always wanting someone ahead of you, I don't really, because if you are predominantly a winger in your mind, you know, I know yes, you want to be the one that is up, right? And then someone now comes. But when you have the orientation where you always like somebody because of the way you move from deep, you always like somebody to always be up so that you just pass and maybe move. I'm like, obviously, I see the guy as just a wing back for United, really. I see him as a wing back for United because that orientation of, you know, for example, when the wing back is moving with the ball, like the way Diallo moves with the ball as a wing back, you know, already there's an Mbeumo. So there's always somebody ahead of him that he passes to and then move, right? So when you look at that orientation, be like, this guy obviously fits. He fits the role of a wing back. But that is one part of his habits. The second part of his habit is the fact that when he moves in, when Diomande moves in, and this very, very part that is very, very disturbing for me, really, if I'm being honest. When he moves in, maybe it's on the right-hand side, you pass the ball to him, he receives from the defense, and he turns and wants to move in, right? He moves in, but when you look at what he does in Bundesliga, he moves in with a piercing, sharp, intense run, little bit of skills, and penetrates, right? So that's the run is always penetrating sharp. But the Premier League, you can't really do that every time. There are some games here, maybe you have some oppositions that have that space. Maybe you're at Old Trafford, you can have those kind of piercing runs in. But in the Premier League, it's not something that you can do. And when I look at most of the things, the actions I've seen him, I'm like, this might not work in the Premier League. Some teams it might work, but it might. I would want a player who is much more measured to receive pass, move, and beats out tight situations and come out, right? But when you look at someone that is just frontal, wants to push, wants to meander his way through everything, and like, this might be someone that would have a lot of, people will dispossess him a lot if he tries that in the Premier League, if you're being honest. And when you look at him, like, this is something that he has to work on. It's something he has to work on. If United decides to buy him, it's something he has to work on. If United decides to buy him. And that point about Diomande, I know I'm saying some things about the habits now. So another habit, which I've mentioned, but let me go further on that habit, is the fact that he always likes to move in, right? Diomande moves in more than he moves out. So he's someone that likes to move from out wide, when he receives the ball wide, he moves in directly, right? He moves in directly. And when you are a right-footed wing back for Man United, right? It makes sense. Looking at the profile of players that we have. So, for example, if you are a right-footed person and you move in, the likes of Mbeumo, because Mbeumo is someone that said also likes to move from outside in, right? So, the moment you move in, Mbeumo can stay wide, right? He pays him. We get the best of Mbeumo when he's out wide and moves in, right? So, he pays him. If it's Diallo that is there and you are the right wing back and you move in, right? Diallo can also create maximum width for you and it makes sense. But if you are a right footer, and obviously we were looking at this, you'll be like an Amad Diallo on the other side, right? So the question now is, if you are playing the left wing as a right footer, if you move in, Kunwa is not someone that also wants to stay wide, right? It's not someone that wants to stay wide. And we will not get the best of Kunwa when it's wide. So let's scrap that. That doesn't look like good dynamics. So if he wants to move in, are we saying Kunwa will move out wide? And do we get the best of Kunwa out wide? Kunwa is the one that wants to be in the pockets. So that's one. Now, if you look at Mason Mount is also one that wants to be in the pockets, right? In the pockets, majorly, you get the best of him there, right? So if our left wing back, which is Diomande, right-footed left wing back in Diomande, if he drives in centrally, where does Mason Mount also stay? So when I look at it, I'm like, he's a good player. There's part of his game that you can see in the intensity, the energy. The guy's an African player, obviously you can see the intensity and the energy in his game, which I will talk about later. But looking at the habits he has, the propensities he has, compared to the profiles we already have in the team, then there's going to be a clash. There's going to be really, really a clash. So the only one I see on the right-hand side, I see the fact that his combination with Mbeumo and Amad makes sense if he moves in, they move out wide, right? So they stretch the defense while he penetrates with his penetrative run in. If he's able to do it in Premier League, it makes sense. But if he does the penetrative run inside, we don't have a left inside forward that stretches. Kunwa likes to be in that hole. So that's what we need to have that discussion around that. So now let's talk about another part of his game, which I think I've slightly mentioned before, but let me now deep down on it. It's fast that the guy's an African, Ivory Coast, same country with Amad Diallo. So obviously you can see that the stamina is there, the energy is there, the work rate is there. And I think that those are the things we want in our team: the work rate, the energy, the intensity, the speed, even the intensity in pressing, right? It's someone that, that you can see the way he presses. Obviously, it's Leipzig. Obviously, it's the Red Bull group. They are known for that high intensity and everything. So I think he has that. He has that in his game, and I think that's amazing. And funny enough, our system, that's the 3-4-2-1 system under Ruben Amorim, looks to be accommodating a lot of Africans because we need high intensity, we need energetic player. And I think maybe at a point, if you're not careful, maybe half of our team will be going for AFCON at a point, because but that's another discussion. that's another discussion. So what I see about him also is the fact that they move inside. They move inside. And I think if it works, it will be very, very dangerous. But the fact that he moves inside now also shows that we will not be having certain things that we also want. Because if it's someone that moves in, then we want cutbacks from the left, which we might not get. But I know it's a thing that the manager can tell him, go wide. But natural habit, he wants to go inside, right? Because we need cutbacks there. We need to also stretch defenses, right? So imagine we are playing a low block, right? And with Kuma is inside, Mbemo is inside, Ahmad is out wide. We want someone that can also stretch and also be very, very effective there. He can do it, but the way I see him, he's someone that still wants to move in. So we have to look at those things. So but all in all, I see him and I'm like, another of his habit also is the fact that whenever he gets into even these dangerous situations, his natural orientation is to pass the ball. So obviously for me, I see maintain that it looks like a kind of like silky kind of fullback, or now let's say wing back, right? I don't see him as an inside forward, really. But I know, yes, there are some games where maybe want to rest players where he can play because he was a winger. But more or less, when I see him, I see a right back or someone that can play, or let me say a wing back for lack of better term. Let me just say a wing back in our system, really. I do not see an inside forward there. And I think the management obviously has seen things about him, but for me, I think there'll be clashes with the orientation of the players that we have already in the game. So for me, I'm not really sold on him. I'm not really sold on Yan Diomande. There are qualities there, but I want to see how it works in terms of combination with the existing profiles, right? And how can we maximize, the team that we have? So guys, these are my opinion on Yan Diomande. What do you think about him? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think you disagree? Let's have that discussion about Yan Diomande. Let's talk about him. Thank you very much for sticking with me. I remain my humble self, Shegun. Please don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and most importantly, don't forget to share. Until I see you next time. Bye.